Alright, y'all, so today we're talking about Pokemon Trainer in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Now, this character was an interesting character for sure. Squirtle was a very good character as far as I'm aware of. If Squirtle was playable as a solo character would probably be like high tier. But Ivysaur and Charizard are pretty garbage, especially Ivysaur. And I'll give you a calling actually a player from Brawl named the Reflex Wonder. He was like the best Pokemon Trainer in Brawl, like period. Hands down, no question about it. This guy was crazy good with the character. He ended up playing Wario at some point in Brawl. Gonna do it with Pokemon Trainer anymore, so that tells you a lot about the character. Everyone at some point has experienced those situations where it's their own mind that's holding them back. I've dealt with this for a long time. I've been playing Smash over 10 years, so I think more than anyone else, I am qualified to really explain why this happens and how to overcome it. So my next class, Mastering Your Nerves, December 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern. Check it out.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yo, my dude, loud and clear.
Sounds good.
Oh, actually, before we start, question. He had like the stamina mechanic, right? It was like, what, every minute or so? Like the characters got like weaker or something?
If I'm not mistaken, it counted by seconds in the code. I believe at 120, so like 2 minutes, it would kick in and it would get progressively worse. So you're at, 100% power, assuming like your fresh moves or whatever. And then when you see that animation, fatigue has started, which at 2 minutes, it's 80% power. I believe it caps out at 200 seconds, which is a little more than 3 minutes. That's you get to 70%. So it's already pretty bad to begin with, and like 70 is not that much worse, but it's still awful,
Yeah.
That said, the worst part about that is not because 2 minutes is a long time.
Yeah.
The problem is the game automatically takes a second away every time you do an attack.
Oh, so like...
you jab, you do Squirtle's great jab, that's 3 seconds off the thing immediately. It's so bad. When you die, that's actually another important part of this too. Squirtle's fatigue becomes 30% of what it was. So if you had just reached, the 2 minute mark or whatever, it would be 30% of that, which is not nearly as much. So like, there's a certain advantage to dying with that specific Pokemon. Obviously there's the impetus of like, oh, I want to be on Squirtle. Let me switch to Ivysaur so I can die, or switch to Charizard so I can die and get back to Squirtle. But when that Pokemon dies, specifically that Pokemon, their stamina is cut by 70%. And each Pokemon has their own stamina bar, so it's not shared or anything. I found personally that it was usually just best to not worry about it too much. Like, you can play around it in certain ways. Like, each of them have certain ways to get them off of you long enough to just get a raw switch. Like a Squirtle, you could down throw and just like immediately switch because you move immediately and that's safe. But I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know how much of this is just minutiae. That's not that important.
I mean, I think that's interesting. So let's say it took 2 minutes to reach fatigue. Would it take 2 minutes to get back to normal?
I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think that's the case.
Oh my god,
It wouldn't surprise me if it was a faster rate. In fact, I'm going to look that up right now so I don't give you the wrong. I do remember the 70% cut when you die.
That's actually so weird because I remember Squirtle was like the best Pokemon, right? But the problem is he did a lot of attacks. So it's
yes,
like this.
Exactly.
So if I just spam this, I'm going to reach my stamina like really quick.
Yeah. And like that, and forward tilt's one of his absolute best moves in the same way. It's very easy to reach your fatigue, and it becomes a big problem for Squirtle. It's probably the biggest limiting factor for the character. Like an otherwise Squirtle in a vacuum, like just reaches fatigue so quickly. It's very sad.
Because wasn't otherwise like Squirtle like really strong, right? Like I remember like people would say, oh, if there's no fatigue, you could just play Squirtle. That character would be like basically a high tier, if not a top tier by himself, right? Like that was
I'm inclined to agree. I wouldn't say top tier. I think that the strengths are not quite that good. Very well-rounded character, especially considering the size of the character. You've got some pretty good range. Some things a lot of people don't realize. Down tilt is like almost like Meta Knight down tilt levels of like safe. Not down tilt. Your forward tilt. Squirtle's forward tilt.
Oh yeah, this move looks like a TAS move. Like it has no leg and doesn't like combo as well.
It's like spaced, 100% safe on block. Like you can follow it up if they're at low percents. Gets them off their feet so they can't just run at you or can't shield immediately. It just lets you set up for whatever you want. It's just really good to throw out safely. You can do that until like forward air at certain times and stuff, just like to pressure them a little bit. Because you can do like short hop forward air and you've got some pretty good range on that.
Oh yeah, that's actually...
It's a really stupid move. And there's a theme as we go along here. Pokemon Trainer as a character, each of the Pokemon have like a handful of moves that that are just like, holy shit, if this was on a better character, this would be like bonkers. Forward tilt's really big. You can safely do back air is really good. Forward air is strong and has pretty good range. Up air is obnoxious as Squirtle. You get all sorts of good pokes.
Yeah, like this move's big. It also kills. Like for a Brawl, that's a kill move. Yo, up air also is a kill move for Brawl, huh?
Yeah, for sure. You do end up in a situation where you wouldn't be surprised if it stale moves is kind of an issue sometimes with that, because like it's so easy to get caught up. Like even with Brawl's SDI, you can follow an SDI and like go into up tilt, up air kind of thing and get a good bit of damage. Like it's really good at racking up damage.
Oh, so it's the Peach problem, right? Where it's like you can rack up the damage, but since your damage racking moves also sometimes your kill moves, you can't actually kill because you use that move for damage, right?
To a degree, Squirtle actually has a surprising amount of like very like reliable kill moves. Like for instance, down throw is pretty strong to begin with, and it's also fast enough where you also. Oh wait, before I go into that, another thing people don't really know: if you ignore tethers, Squirtle has like the 3rd biggest grab range or some like.
Oh, what that is a tether grab. What?
Yeah, it's like really big relative to his size.
And there's like no leg.
The distance he covers.
Oh, and if you pivot grab that, it's gonna be even crazier, huh?
Yeah. So he also has the hydroplaning. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. He's got some tech to like do the slides. You can do that to make a lot of your moves have more range. It's a timing thing.
I think I get it. I think I kind of see it, and that's insane because it gives you like a nice like retreat and then move forward, or move forward, drift back type of, but like it basically gives you a lot more range effective on the character at a really quick burst speed that most characters probably aren't able to deal with.
Yes, and there's other elements of that too. So if you start the turnaround, let go of the stick, and then go back, you can like, as soon as you start turning around, let go of the stick for a bit, you can like hold the backwards, then you can, and if you time it well, you can hold it back a little bit and then move forward at the same speed you would normally. And you can delay it a little bit so they can't easily do it, but there's what they refer to as true hydroplaning, where if you tap back at the right time, you'll slide a good like 1/3 to a half distance of final D in neutral effectively. And at any time your forward tilt does not keep momentum, so you can stop it at any time and still get your really good motion. One other thing that's I guess important for the kill moves, it's really easy to do. If you start the dash turnaround, hold shield during it, and then tap the C stick like behind where Squirtle, like the original dash animation, you'll slide like half the distance of final D with your grab. And you slide with the character too. You might be able to do it with A too if you're timing it well.
Yeah, I'm even seeing it like there. This isn't the full thing, but I'm seeing like the general idea. Just even there, and it's like...
Yeah, and the fact that he has that much burst range that you don't have to commit to at all if you don't want to. You can do it into another dash turnaround, you can forward tilt, you can... another thing you can do that's also really simple for his spacing, if you're dashing forward, you can do a dash turnaround away and immediately back air, and you'll like get a good bit of distance. The amount of burst range he has is surprising, like very, very good. Definitely like the kind of thing that makes a high tier character.
Yeah.
Down throw kills at a good %. He's got all sorts of buttons. Fatigue is really the thing that lets him down. His recovery's all right. I mean, like, it's nothing special, but it has a pretty decent hitbox in front of him.
I feel like for Brawl especially, like, this is fine because it's a hitbox that lingers, and, like, you can, like, angle it enough. Even Meta probably can't edge guard that too well because you can angle something like this, like, and then, like, kind of outplay the man and try to, like, down air you, for example.
Yeah, the fact that you have a little bit of flexibility with your direction is pretty nice. It is a little susceptible to SDI if you really know what you're doing, and if it's not spaced super well, they can SDI up and oftentimes, like, neutral area if it's something like Meta Knight. But, like... it's pretty all right. All things considered, just pretty fine.
Really? What was Squirtle's weaknesses? Because he seems like he has great burst options, is very small, so a lot of attacks just don't hit him. He does crazy damage. He kills okay, not amazingly, but having a down throw that kills basically anywhere in stage, and multiple kill aerials and hydroplaning gives him like up smash as a kill option. What is really his weakness besides stamina just be lack of range and I guess the recovery?
I mean, obviously the biggest thing is fatigue. His range is serviceable, but when you get into these matchups where like approaching Snake can be a real pain in the ass for anybody, and like even if Squirtle's fools, it's like it's in a situation with a character like that, you risk trading a lot, and Squirtle is, I believe, like the second lightest character in the game. He's like tied with somebody.
Oh my god, yeah. So like, especially in Brawl, because like the heavy characters are really heavy and the lightweights are really light. A lot of moves did insane damage in Brawl. So like he probably could die like sub 100 in a game where people could hit like for 20% easily.
Yeah, it can be rough. One thing that he does that does help, your forward B is a momentum cancel, because you can do up air kind of like Meta Knight can do in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
So you can do that and jump, but usually you'll do the up air and then jump and immediately do forward B. You'll be so high up, it's not the greatest situation in the world without your jump, but like it's Brawl, you've got your air dodge and stuff. So
Yeah,
like it works
broken
okay.
air dodges.
Yeah, his fall speed's pretty good too. Like you can catch people, but it's not so much that like you get comboed really well. Like his gravity's nothing so. So like I would say fatigue's a really big problem, and like him being really light. I find that his combos, he can do pretty solid damage, but it's damage that like sets up into a bunch of individual hits. So if you're playing a battle of attrition and you're trading a lot of situations, like again, like I mentioned, like Snake, it can be really hard to get something started, and they just end up doing a lot more damage than you.
I also want to mention, it looks like his air style is good because he can like drift back and forth very easily. So like if he's in the air jumping one direction, he's not committed, which is a big deal when you can basically go like, oh, I'm holding this way. Actually, no, I'm holding the other way.
He's got great airspeed and great air like acceleration to drift really well. He's just a really good all-around character.
Wait, this crawl looks kind of funny. Look at him crawling.
He does have one of the lowest crouches, which is kind of cool.
I feel like there's a lot of character, like when they have like particular moves where it's just like, oh, this goes over under that move, and that's that.
With Squirtle, honestly, with a lot of the high tiers, it's not that case. Like there were certain situations with like certain rising aerials and stuff that you could. I personally found that you usually best bet if trying to do that instead would just be to forward tilt anyway, because it does put you kind of lower to the ground.
Oh,
like a hitbox, so like you kind of two birds with one stone.
And did you have anything like jab grab is like a true combo? Like can you do like this and like it actually is just guaranteed?
So jab grab is not. Jab actually doesn't have a whole lot of frame advantage with him, but surprisingly, one thing you can do, you can grab a character and just mash A, and when they grab release, you get a guaranteed jab.
Oh, okay. So it's not,
and I think Yoshi specifically is one of the only characters that doesn't actually. Most characters, you get the free jab 3. If people are very like savvy with a matchup, they can try and SDI away. But in that case, you've got little mix-ups. You can grab them again. You can forward tilt safely in that situation to try and punish the like forward motion to get them off stage. So like you've got mix-ups, but in general, if they're not a character that like you get a whole lot of trying to do like up throw into like juggling, I find the best bet is usually just to, because his pummel is actually pretty good too. So if they don't know the matchup, you get free jab. If they do know the matchup, you get a mix-up in which is generally in your favor. And you'll find a theme as we go into the characters as well. There's a lot of weird setups that you can do in similar ways that let you take advantage of, especially people who don't know the matchup, but even when they do, you're kind of still in the pilot seat if you can get certain situations going.
All right. Okay, that's a lot of Squirtle. So what about Ivysaur? Because I know Squirtle's a good one, but Ivysaur I think it was like basically in contention for like worst characters in the game or pretty close to it by himself. Like if you had to solo main a character and it was like Ivysaur or Ganondorf, that's a pretty difficult pick, right?
It depends on who you ask. If you ask me, I personally think that in a vacuum, Ivysaur is better than a handful of the absolute bottom characters when you've got like Puff and Ganondorf and Zelda, because ultimately, if you're like looking at the list of characters and you're like, how well does Ganon do against all of the individual characters? There are just matchups where it's like, I don't have that character just doesn't have a single button that can really reliably, safely space.
Okay, so Ivysaur is better than the little worst of the worst guy. That's
my personal opinion, because I think like even with fatigue, let's say if it's a single Ivysaur with fatigue, the specific buttons that still do work on the character, like that are really good at spacing or do pretty good knockback or damage or whatever, still function even with fatigue. Right. And the fact that back air does no damage. Wait,
that's 5 damage. What?
Yes. It's so little damage, but it's more than 0, which a character like Puff just can't touch certain characters. And in my opinion, I think that makes Ivysaur slightly better than the worst of the worst. Ivysaur is still trash, ultimately, in like a vacuum. But I think the fact that like down tilt, forward tilt to a degree, back air is the big one. Back air is like your lifeblood.
So it's like, even though this move does no damage and like it's adding a lot to your exhaustion meter, it's like, just because it's such a big button that like looks pretty safe, it's like you're just gonna use this move and get the little damage you can extremely safely, and like that's fine. Like it's not great, but it's acceptable, because your other options are like this, which doesn't really hit people jumping. It looks like it's not that great, honestly, or like
Yeah, it's not
This
too
this
great.
looks like a very good move, but I'm assuming it's punish. Oh, it's definitely punishable like on whiff and block though.
Well, here's the thing: if you do short hop forward air and you retreat against some characters,
Oh, it auto cancel.
It's lagless, so it's all right. You can use it to space out certain characters. You have to do it immediately, so you're just like sliding Y to A and basically buffering it.
Yeah, it's like doing a buffer
like,
short hop in Ultimate.
Yeah, but it functions. Like it, and you can full hop, which is another thing too. If someone tries to bull rush you, you can full hop it, and it hits like all the way, like on almost 180 degrees from straight up to straight down. So like it's actually got a pretty good hitbox on it. That can be surprisingly potent, especially like when you try and challenge somebody in the air. The angle can be pretty nice. It is slow, it's got its problems, but if we're dealing with like a G tier character or whatever, I think that it's a pretty solid move.
Like you weren't gonna use PT versus like a good character like Olimar, Snake, Meta Knight, Diddy Kong, whatever, and like have a chance. You're using them in like low tier brackets type of thing.
Even in that case, there are some niche matchups. I think Ivysaur does okay against Ice Climbers, for instance. I mean, relatively speaking. I'm not like, this is the counter character to Ice Climbers or anything. But one of the important things about back air that sets it apart, hits twice, which is huge because it means you can't just power shield it. Generally speaking, you're going to at least normal shield one of these.
Oh, I see. So like this is reliable because like in Brawl, like, since you can power shield by just tapping shield, a lot of single moves were like, oh, you just power shield and get free punish. Like if you're med,
like Snake can't just power shield up air you, which is like that sort of thing. There are certain punishes that people are just used to. So even though you are like somewhat predictable in the way that you're using the move, the 2 hits and the pretty good range, the very little landing lag, all kind of add up. And it's kind of I guess like I think of kind of like Dalsim in like Street Fighter, in the way that like he wants to throw a punch, but
you have to hold that.
The fear of that allows you to do other things that like you're doing back air and they don't want to go in because they don't want to get hit by the back air, or maybe they've gotten swatted back a couple times. Maybe you get to do a forward tilt as a result, or you get that time to throw a razor leaf or something. Like the fear of that, or at least the safety of that, allows you to sneak in other moves more safely than you normally would.
What was other good moves? So you had back air, forward air was pretty good, just a down tilt's okay. I guess Razor Leaf would be another decent move. Looks like it's just like a generic like projectile, which is fine.
Yeah, it's a generic projectile. One important thing about it is despite Ivysaur's like poor airspeed, it does allow you to drift in the air. You can be reverse and wave land. Like doing it in the air, you get a little bit of flexibility with it, and you can smash throw it versus tilt throw, so you can change up the angle a little bit. It's not terrible. Like it's a projectile. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's there.
So what was up there? Because I remember like his smash was all memes. Like down smash is bad. Forward smash was like okay, and like up smash.
We're talking about this game or Ultimate?
This game, and then like up smash was like you're not hitting a good player with up smash, right?
So 2 things about that I guess I'll list with that. It's not impossible to land, but you're not just going to do it raw. So the main thing about it, whenever I was thinking about ways to set it up, the important thing is when you use it, it hits frame 23. So if you can set a slight frame advantage situation, you can catch a spot dodge and kill them at 70.
Oh, okay, because it's like a super hard remove, which kind of stinks to go for, but at the same time, Brawl is a game where unless you're fighting like Ices, you didn't really get hit too hard in Brawl for getting punished, so you could afford to take those risks a bit more than something like other Smash games where characters just have more powerful, straightforward punishes and stuff like that. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, okay. I would say so, especially because it's strongest uncharged up smash in the game. It's a pretty large hitbox. It only I think it's only active for like 1 or maybe 2 frames, so it's not very active, but it will kill you dead. And that's really important in certain situations. Like for instance, I mentioned like with a grab release, if you're pummeling somebody, you can get them to stay grounded potentially. And sometimes people will spot dodge kind of on react, just like, oh, let's see what happens because it's spot dodge. So you can kind of punish them that way. It's not a move you want to throw out a lot, but sometimes it's what you got to go do when you're using a character like this.
Yeah. What about a neutral air? Because this move seems like... Oh, never mind. Yoshi fell out without even DIing. I can already see the problem with this move.
It's a surprisingly like competent move. You just have to roll with the punches a little bit. The SDI is actually pretty low on it, so they're not really able to do much. The problem with it is most of the hitboxes send you up. So in order to combo it effectively, you basically have to be rising with it. You're going to be doing full hops a lot of the time with it, or landing with it. So you can do that. You can move forward with it towards the end at low percent. You could do like neutral air to neutral air or neutral air to forward air. It's a surprisingly okay move. I think it's like frame 4, decent hitbox on it. So one of the main things that it has available to it is the back of Ivysaur, like basically like the bottom back, kind of like where her butt is. If you're doing it rising, like go up to Yoshi pushy, face away, and do a full hop. And full hop neutral air. They get spiked. It's a true spike, actually, and it's set knockback. So like you can do it at the ledge in certain situations, and you can spike people at 0. And it's not hugely powerful, but like between that and your gigantic down air and stuff, like you can gimmick people. It's surprisingly competent. It's not like incredible, but it's alright. I think it's got its place. It's decently safe doing it to like when you're landing. It's not the best, but combined with other things, it can be okay. Like Bullet Seed has a little bit of startup invincibility you can use when you're landing with it and stuff. Spot dodge is spot dodge, but in general, you're going to want to, like, if you have an opportunity, you're going to do forward air. Yeah, you can do that, for instance, with up air, forward air, another neutral air. It's fine. It's not super remarkable.
So basically, this move just gives you whatever you want. Like, this was like, I hit you with neutral air, it's time to mix type of move.
Yeah, it gets a lot of little follow-ups.
Also, I'm assuming up air is just a good kill move, right? Like, this seems like a reliable, I hit you, you're dead type of move.
Yeah, it's enormous. It's, I believe, the second strongest up smash in the game, or up air. Zelda beats it. It's enormous, great damage. It sends you downward, so like if you miss with it, you're coming towards the stage anyway, so it's like relatively safe in that regard. Forward smash is surprisingly good. The thing about forward smash is the raw range on it is like the
lean back probably matters a lot, because like it's like a dish store, like I do this and it covers the range, but I'm back here, so it's not getting punished really.
If it's spaced well and it's not power shielded, they might dash attack you or something depending on the character, but like it's surprisingly powerful. It's like 16 damage. You can angle it so you can hit people on the ledge or like below the ledge.
Oh, that's very funny actually.
Yeah, so it's got some stuff. It hits behind you, that has a bad hitbox, but like at least it's safe when that happens. We didn't go over Bullet Seed. Bullet Seed is frame 5 and does like 40 damage if you get a good thing.
Yeah, you got like the launcher and like, yeah, I can see it. Even with SDI, like that's gonna do a lot.
If you hit with the back of it, I believe the angle's a little more favorable, so it's harder to like DI out kind of thing. So like usually if you're trying to do it as a punish, you...
Oh, I see. You go for the back
turn around. Yeah. But it's like 30 damage. If you release it before they get to the top, you have frame advantage. So it's like, all right, what are you going to do when you're coming down now? And if you can get them to air dodge into it, they take infinite damage as well. It hits on frame 5, invincibility till frame, I think frame 3 is when it, the last frame. So it has a single frame of vulnerability before it comes out. But in general, it's a great punish if you can land the back hit, because it's just like, all right, 30 damage and I've got frame advantage.
So Ivysaur, what was his main weaknesses? Because it sounds like he has a lot of really good moves for walling with good built-in mix. Was his grab game bad? Like, what was his main weaknesses as a character?
Like you mentioned, and like a lot of people realize, Ivysaur is not a good character. And part of the reason for that is Ivysaur's air mobility is abysmal.
Yeah.
Like, if you get put into the air, you have like down air is okay because it's enormous and like at least it's a move that you can put between you and your opponent. But like if they just avoid it, it can be a real problem. The recovery is one of the worst in the game.
Yeah, because tether recoveries in Brawl were bad because you could hold ledge, and now is that the recovery wouldn't reach, like it couldn't grab ledge, but also as like a hitbox is really small, it looks like. So if someone's holding ledge, it's not even threatening, like at least Olimar's was, to like hit ledge hold.
Yes, so like, and you can't drift the way that Olimar can either. One thing that you could do, throw a Razor Leaf away from the stage and then have back air to protect you, like to get on the stage if you're close enough, which can be nice because back air is still incredible. If someone eats your jump or something, you're just dead.
Okay, so and at that point, considering he's doing a lot of like not much damage, so he's like an attrition-based character, except when he gets hit, he just dies. So like you're not playing the same game as your opponent. Your opponent's saying, I'll hit you, you're dead. You're saying, let me hit you for 5 damage over and over, and hopefully you don't mess me up once.
Yeah, you're doing that constantly and trying to get small windows of it. So like forward smash being good range and pretty good power, kind of like the up smash being crazy power. Up B is a surprisingly potent kill move if you can get the sweet spot. Down air meteors, which is not that great.
Because you can like cancel the meteors with a jump or something, right? Like meteors are different than spikes.
Yeah, that's right. You can use the invincibility from the ledge and jump up and do a rising neutral air and spike people. She's got stuff, but ultimately you have to be very patient. A lot of people aren't like really capable of keeping people away for that long. The back air is like key to setting everything else up. You want to make them hesitate, and when you can get them to hesitate, you're able to do your other stuff.
Or if you had a character that out-attritioned him, like, I feel like Olimar would do that. Or even Marth might just, with his sword range, like, kind of outspace him. It's like, well, your game plan just got one-upped. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's really rough, like, those kinds of matchups, because it's like, you can keep whip with them in number of, like, exchanges won, but when your backer is doing 5 and Marth is doing 17 when he tipper backers you or whatever, it's not the most fun thing in the world.
Yeah. So what about Charizard?
So, this character's a weird one.
What the fuck is his move?
Charizard's got some big weaknesses, but also some really big strengths.
Is he like kind of generic grappler where it's like he hits hard, nice hitboxes, surprisingly fast, but combo city, poor frame data, can't get out bad disadvantage, like that kind of character?
Disadvantage kills this character. If you get put on the ground, say like you miss attack or God forbid Snake down throws you, you have by far the worst get up like roll, I guess, like left or right in that motion.
Oh yeah, tech animation, yep.
Yeah, by far the worst in the game. You can't even, like, if Snake down throws you, you can't roll behind him. It's just really bad.
So you could be stuck on the ground forever, pretty much just getting pressured for free.
Yeah, not a lot of characters can really put you on the ground for free, but like Snake is a particularly bad example, like bad to fight against.
Yeah.
But like you have a bad disadvantage in general. Getting down from the sky, you get juggled really easily. You have a big hitbox.
Mm-hmm. And you're slow, and hitboxes below him. Like that down air is not good. That nair is bad.
But here's the thing, like the nair is not going to get you down from there. The down air is like a surprisingly good hitbox, but it's slow. So the thing is, the hitbox is like almost a Charizard size hitbox below him. So it's big, but it's slow, and it only hits like immediately, and it's just like, oh, well, I'm just going to wait for Charizard to press a button and then punish him.
And his recovery also looks pretty bad. Like he has multiple jumps, which is nice. Oops, actually just glided. Actually,
the thing is, he only has 2 midair jumps, whereas a lot of other characters get more than that. Like David gets fucking 5, I think.
And like the midair jumps are kind of like weak. Like those are low. Yeah, that's it. That's my jumps.
Yeah.
And the up B is
low jumps. Up B is kind of slow. It only has invincibility, like super armor rather, at the beginning of it. So like you're trying to use it almost like a counter, and when you're recovering, because if you don't do that, you know, a worst case scenario, you'll trade and then you'll die because you're coming up. So that can be kind of rough. Luckily, you have a surprising amount of tools to prevent yourself from getting that situation. Neutral B and forward B carry this character by like a country mile.
Yeah, because like this neutral auto cancel on short up, and like for Brawl, like this is a nice hitbox. Like it's lingering the entire body.
The fire itself, like the nair's fine. It lingers a decent bit, so you can catch some spot dodges. The fire itself also goes into the Z-axis, so you can get the sweet spot on some spot dodges.
Oh, so you can hit like DDD during his god spot dodge, basically.
Yes, I wouldn't recommend like going for that against a day-to-day, but it's there. Like,
yeah, that matchup, I imagine Charizard got basically infinited. But anyway, who didn't receive they were a bad character. But yeah, this move was good, right? Because it's like, it's SDIable, it just controls a lot of space.
No, here's the thing. It's not SDIable. That's why it's so good. They have to move back. If you get somebody in it, they're forced to move back, and then we're back in neutral. So you could just do it in short bursts, usually kind of like doing it at a distance. You can't drift left or right while you're doing it in midair, but you can keep any momentum that you had. But you can be reverse, you can wave bounce with it. So like, it's got stuff that you could do to kind of mix it up in terms of like spacing. And there's no risk to it. It's like, a lot of times you'll get a little bit of damage, and that's all you'll get, but you're back in neutral, and that's damage you didn't have.
Yeah, so it's like, the main issue is just the fact that, since it's a flame breath, it disappears over time, so you can't just spam it. Like, it's a great move. Almost use it off cooldown pretty much, with like in terms of the range of it, like as long as it's max range. But you can't spam it because eventually hold too long, it's just like...
I find that in matchups where you're like doing it for dear life to try and keep it for spacing, if you just tap it and don't hold it, you might want to hold it a tiny bit sometimes if you're worried they're going to roll into you or something, depending on how far their forward roll is, or I guess whatever roll they're using. A lot of times just doing a single tap, I'm not even sure it like costs any energy that way. So like basically if you just do it like that, it's just a great neutral tool.
And then I remember this was the boss battles move, Rock Smash.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, because this move is like, it's like just kind of busted. Like, it's big, it's a little bit slow, but the damage is crazy. It's probably pretty safe, and like It's probably to just like punish this.
Let me get into why this is a good move, because it does good damage, but lots of moves in Brawl do good damage. The headbutt on it is something like frame 22, so it's a really good bot dodge punisher. When you do the headbutt is like 15, and then you have, I want to say it's 10 different shards that come out, like the little rocks. It's like some RNG, but like the rocks come out afterwards, and if you're in there really deep, if you get the headbutt fresh and you get all the shards, it does 45 damage, but the shards also keep them in place. So you do 45 and have enough time to follow up with a grab or an up smash. Yeah, if you jump into it a certain way, like so that you're hit by the bottom of the rock almost when you're headbutting, you can get 45 into up smash for a free 61 damage.
Yeah, it's fine.
And like that's generally useful, but one really important thing that kind of really lifts this character up, especially when they don't know the matchup, it's so infuriating for people. I mentioned that the headbutt is something like frame 22 or something, but the rock comes out on frame 3, and if the opponent hits it, it already just explodes. So immediately turns into 10 shards that trade with them and hit them in place. In a lot of matchups, you end up using it as a counter. So you just put a rock in front of them frame 3, and if they're like swinging with a jab or whatever, it explodes in their face, and then you get the big headbutt that is a kill move. And again, this move can be, you can drift in the air, you have wave bounce and B reverse. So a lot of it is you put it kind of between you and the opponent like a counter. And if they respect it, then it's probably for the best. If they don't, it beats a surprising amount of moves. Like in the Meta Knight matchup, if you get a good angle with it, if someone's just trying to Mock Tornado spam you, you can put the rock inside of it and the rocks will explode inside of him and he'll just take a bunch of damage. Like you can do rock to rock and do like 90 damage if they just don't respect it.
Ooh, that's interesting.
It does like an obscene amount of damage. The fact that it's frame 3 and punishes people for pressing buttons, that kind of damage, like on any character, is going to be like really good.
Yeah. That's just like that 90 damage can set up some characters for death right away, and then this character hits pretty hard and kills relatively well for Brawl, I'd imagine, right?
Yes, Charizard has a lot of good kill moves. Down tilt has a sweet spot that's surprisingly powerful. It's like kind of at the tip of the hit. It's pretty fast, has pretty decent range. Forward tilt has a sweet spot that is decently powerful, but in general, you're going to want to do down tilt in that situation, unless you're trying to angle it up or down on the ledge.
Oh, I see.
Down tilt can be pretty good because you can like jab, down tilt people depending on the character. Up smash is frame 6 in this game, I think. I think it's frame 5 in Ultimate, but frame 6.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
It does hit on like near the ground.
What about his aerials? Does aerials, it looks like back here might kill maybe?
So back air definitely kills. Is like a premier one, I would say. You can do a short hop immediate back air, like buffer it, and it's lagless. You can do a full hop down air and it's lagless, and because it hits a full Charizard below you, you can punish somebody like on the ground potentially, like if they're like trying to dash grab you. That will hit somebody on the ground, what you just did.
Yeah, I think oh my god, that's actually kind of crazy. I'm assuming it spikes if someone's in the air.
It's a meteor. It's fine. Forward air is kind of a crapshoot. It has very high base knockback if you get the sweet spot, but you'll get situations where you'll hit the sweet spot and then like a sour spot that sends them nowhere, and then you get punished for using it.
Oh yeah, I can see you mean. I can see that for sure. Especially with good SDI, yeah.
Yeah, it can be kind of a pain. But in general, back air has great range, hits a lot of people standing. If you get a low hitbox on it, so like if you hit with your legs basically and not the tail, the first hit before the second hit, it has a weak spike on it. You shouldn't be swinging for that if you can, but like sometimes it's like, oh, whoops, I accidentally killed them in certain situations. Just trying to. But back air is a good kill. Up air is crazy disjointed, which is great. You can catch people's air dodges pretty well with it, keep them in the air. Unfortunately, Charizard's air mobility is not super great. It's not terrible, but like it's hard to catch some people sometimes. But your ground speed is quite good, so you can kind of juggle that way a lot of the time. You can do that into like a neutral air and just keep a big hitbox out with the air dodge down. Depending on the character, if you think they're gonna swing on you, you could stick out a rock smash and try and punish, like counter them for it. You can do uppy if you're like a reed god, because it's got super armor, has decent power on it, like pretty good knockback growth. So like if you're up there and you're expecting something, you can get some cheesy kills that way. He's got a lot of options for kills, but none of them are super, like he's not really a combo king or anything. So a lot of it's like individual things, which is part of why it's good that he spent so much time trying to flamethrower or get like big cash outs with
like he's not a combo character, but he's hitting hard enough with these two moves alone that like you basically neutral on those moves and then killing people, and like that's fine. It's not the greatest, but it's fine. The theory with this character at least is you do damage with Squirtle, you zone shown up with Ivysaur, and then you go Charizard with kill percents. Now, I don't know if it worked that way in matches. I would imagine it didn't. But what's your take on that? Like,
I think that in this game, a lot of it ends up being you're mostly playing to matchups. I don't think that any of them have a great trouble killing when they're not in fatigue. I mean, obviously with certain matchups, it can be difficult. Like maybe as Ivysaur, you're gonna have a hard time getting somebody to the air to pressure them with up air, that sort of thing. All in all, I would say that they're all pretty good at racking up damage, and they've all got pretty solid kill options. You know, like it varies a little bit, but in general, the main problem there becomes a matchup thing or fatigue, or it's a combination of the two.
So like if you can play every character in the matchups, they're fine, and like this character would be fine, but because you cannot, it's just much harder because maybe Charizard's good for one character, but the other two Pokemon aren't, but you can't play Charizard because you have fatigue and you can't kill anymore. So it's like, what do you do? Kill with fatigue or switch to a worse matchup type of thing?
Right, that's the difficult part. I found ultimately, first stock, if Charizard's the character I want here, Charizard's gonna work his little heart out until I get the first kill. And I mean, if you die first, then obviously what can you do? But like, say, you know, you're fatigued and you're both at 100 plus, and it's like, all right, do I switch to Squirtle? If Charizard is the Pokemon that I want to use for the matchup, I found usually, since they've all got pretty good spacing tools, it's like, well, yeah, you're that much weaker, but your frame data and your tools are still good. They're just weaker. You just kind of outplay them for longer, and it sucks that you have to do that. But like, they've got the tools, is the way I kind of looked at it.
Yeah, you know, like Pokémon Trainer, I could think of that was notable. I don't know if there's any other like particular notable PTs. Even didn't you end up playing Wario at some point for a lot of matchups, or am I remembering wrong?
It was less for matchups than just because I like the character.
Okay, fair enough.
There are definitely matchups where someone could just grab the ledge and just try and camp you. It's like, well, Ivysaur can keep you out, but if I just don't approach Ivysaur, then she's just gonna get tired. I remember one of my last tournaments, it was like one of the last Apexes that I went to. I don't remember exactly. I had to fight Rain, and he took me to Smashville, and he just was gliding his Meta Knight under the level for 2 minutes at a time until Squirtle was tired. It was very smart, and more people should do that. But like, there are characters that can do that. If you've got good mobility, you can make them struggle. At the same time, if you're still struggling to fight the character, if you're just bad against Squirtle, even if Squirtle is weaker, sometimes that's a blessing in disguise. Like, if you're at low percents and I'm fatigued to Squirtle, that just means up air is going to combo you even more.
Yeah.
So like, it does reduce the damage still, but like, there are some advantages to it. Nothing great, but it does mitigate the problem.
So basically, you're saying we should bring back fatigue as a mechanic in Ultimate. That'd be fun.
If you take anything away from what I'm saying, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So overall, it sounds like you were pretty optimistic of this character despite his relevance basically just being you, which I can relate to that. Don't worry, I understand. It's pretty interesting look for a character that was, you know, generally considered kind of pretty awful, honestly.
Yeah.
That's
right.
like, but it also really sounds like most of the issues with this character overall were fatigue. Like, if fatigue wasn't a thing, this character would probably have been pretty good. I legitimately expected to be, oh yeah, Squirtle's good, Ivysaur garbage, Charizard mostly garbage.
And I mean, a lot of people will say that, but I think ultimately the tools that the character has, when used optimally, like a lot of it is like, it's not even a very complicated character. Like, yeah, you have 3 different characters you're working with, but like, ultimately, the character has enough to play neutral, to get rewarded on reads, and I was good at that. I feel like with a good read, you do 40 with Bullet Seed, or 45 with Rock Smash, or 40 with up airs and stuff as Ivysaur or Squirtle. Like, you get rewarded for making good decisions on the character. Despite their faults, I think ultimately that is better than what a lot of people think they are.
That is better than most of the roster in Brawl, where most of the roster just couldn't play the game if you played the matchup right, I felt like. Then again, all of our main perspective, where my character +2 to everyone but like 5 characters. So
yeah, I mean that's real.
Yeah, any last things you want to mention about this character? Also, is there any like socials you want me to link it on the video, by the way?
Oh, I mean, I'm Twitter. I've got a Twitch channel, but I mostly just play whatever I feel like.
Yeah, like if you don't care.
Guy, but like, I mean, I've got good takes. I like video games. Sometimes I comment on what's going on because I get Smash stuff through osmosis from other people I follow and stuff. But like,
you like video games and you like having an opinion on Smash Brothers. basically.
Yeah, that's yeah. So I'm there. Got a YouTube channel. I'll make like educational videos, but I don't really play that much. So now it's Once in a Blue Moon if anything gets posted there. But mostly Twitter if people want to follow. But yeah, my Pokemon Trainer. He's fun.
He was a character in this game, that's for sure.
That's right.
You know, was it Olimar perspective? I can never imagine playing this character, but I also only played 5 matchups in Brawl. So what can I say?
Right. Yeah, thanks for reaching out. It was cool talking about it.
Yeah, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. All right, I will let you know when the video is up. Thank you so much.
Take care, dude.
All right, you too, dude. Peace. There's a look into Pokemon Trainer as a character, right? Very interesting. If you compare it to Ultimate, honestly, it's not even the same character in the slightest. Obviously, not having the stamina mechanic is a huge deal. But even in terms of gameplay, honestly, and Ultimate, they kind of just got rid of the shitty ideas and they turned this character into a monster just as a result of that. All right, I hope this was an interesting video. If you have ideas for more characters you'd like to see discussed in Brawl, please let me know. I got you. Catch you later.